Hey, my name is Mark. I'm 29. Until 2 months ago, I was just another contract driver trying to keep his head above water. Then, one rainy night at 9:40, a married woman slid into my back seat, paid through the app, and as she stepped out into the rain, she turned back and said, "Come upstairs. I'll pay you the long way." The lobby smelled like expensive marble and her jasmine perfume, and when the elevator doors closed, I knew I was crossing a line I'd never even seen before. She wasn't buying what I thought she was buying, she was buying something I didn't even know I had to sell. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments. Because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. The rain that night wasn't the kind that builds slowly. It just started, heavy and sudden, like the city had been holding its breath and finally let go. I was idling outside the Meridian Tower at 9:40, wipers cutting through the downpour, when she slid into the back seat. "Mark?" Her voice was softer than I expected from the app booking. "Yes, ma'am. Where to?" She gave me an address I already knew, the same high-rise we were parked outside of. I glanced in the rearview mirror. She was staring out the window, her breath fogging the glass slightly. Designer coat, wedding ring catching the streetlight. The kind of woman who usually took black cars, not my beat-up Honda. "Actually," she paused, "can you just drive around the block once? Slowly?" I did what she asked. We circled once in silence, rain drumming on the roof. When I pulled back to the curb, she didn't move for a long moment. "The payment went through your app," she said quietly. "Yes, ma'am. Thank you." She opened the door, then stopped, turned back. Her eyes were gray-green, tired in a way that had nothing to do with the hour. "Come upstairs. I'll pay you the long way." I should have said no. I had rules about after-hours calls. Keep it professional. Cash up front. Never follow clients home, especially not the married ones in buildings with doormen who remembered faces. But my mom's prescription had gone up again that week. The truck needed new brakes. And something in her voice, it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't hungry or desperate. It was careful, almost businesslike. "Ma'am, I don't usually—" "Please." The word came out smaller than she meant it to. "It's not what you think." I killed the engine, pocketed my phone, locked the truck. We stepped under the awning together, rain still coming down like it had somewhere to be. The lobby was all marble and warm light, the kind of place where your footsteps echoed even when you tried to walk quiet. The doorman behind the desk looked up. Middle-aged guy, fit, kind eyes. "Evening, Ms. Ashford." His gaze flicked to my contractor jacket, back to her face. No judgment, just noting. "Marco, this is Mark. He's helping with some household logistics tonight." Marco nodded once. "Of course. Have a good evening." The elevator was mirrors and soft chimes. She stood in the far corner, ring finger tapping against her phone in a rhythm I couldn't place. I kept my hands in my pockets, watching the numbers climb. "Household logistics?" I asked. "Small repairs, errands, things that need attention." She wasn't looking at me, but at my reflection in the mirrored wall. "Things my husband doesn't have time for." The doors opened on the 18th floor. The hallway was thick carpet and muted lighting. As we walked toward her door, I caught a glimpse of another door across the hall, cracking open an inch, then closing again. Her place was glass and clean lines, the kind of kitchen where the counters stayed empty because someone else did the cooking. She hung our coats on a marble hook by the door, started water boiling, set out peppermint tea bags. "The long way," she said again, softer this time. "2 evenings a week, Tuesday and Friday, 8 to 10. I need someone to help with errands, small repairs around the house, someone to—" She paused, hands steady on the counter. "Someone to keep me company while I organize things." I waited for the other shoe to drop, the real ask. The reason married women in penthouses called drivers at midnight. I don't pay for touching, she said like she could read my thoughts. I don't pay for compliments or lies or anything that would make either of us feel cheap afterward. She turned to face me. I pay for time, honest time, and if you're not comfortable with that, you can leave right now with no hard feelings. The kettle started whistling. She set a thick envelope on the kitchen island, more cash than I made in a week of driving. I took out half and slid it back to her. Let me earn it first. Something shifted in her expression. Relief, maybe, or surprise. What needs doing? She pulled out her phone, opened a notes app. Floating shelf in the bedroom. The bracket came loose. Grocery run. The app keeps glitching when I try to substitute items. And she gestured at the space around us. Just company. While I sort through things. We started with the shelf. Simple job. Found the stud, reset the bracket, leveled it properly. She held the level while I worked, and we talked in fragments. Her charity board meeting next week, my mom's physical therapy schedule, normal things, safe things. The grocery app really was glitching. We sat at the kitchen island, her laptop between us, picking substitutions together. Greek yogurt instead of regular, sourdough instead of whole wheat. She laughed once, quick and surprised, when I suggested getting the good ice cream since her husband wouldn't know the difference anyway. How do you know he won't know? Because he's not the one doing the shopping. She looked at me for a long moment. You notice things. Part of the job. By 11:20, we were riding back down with 2 paper bags of groceries. The elevator slowed, stopped at the lobby level. The doors started to open, then hesitated. Footsteps in the lobby. Male cologne hit the air before anything else. Expensive, sharp. Vivian? Her whole posture changed. Shoulders back, expression smooth. Loading dock, she murmured to me, so quiet I almost missed it. The doors opened. A man in a tailored coat was checking his phone by the mailboxes. Tall, silver at the temples, the kind of tired that came from working late every night. Graham. Her voice was different now, polished. You're home early. Marco appeared from somewhere, holding a package. Mr. Ashford, this came for you. Need a signature. Graham moved toward the desk. We angled past him, quiet as possible, toward a side exit I hadn't noticed before. In the drizzle outside the loading dock, she took the grocery bags. Tuesday at 8? She asked. I nodded. Thank you, Mark. I drove home in the rain, envelope in my jacket pocket, trying to figure out what had just happened. The next morning, I sat at my desk in the studio apartment above Jimmy's garage, counting and recounting, enough to cover my mom's prescription increase and still have money left over. I typed up a simple invoice template on my laptop. Household logistics and errands. The pharmacy called at noon. We can fill the full prescription this month, the text said. Card on file? Yeah, go ahead. I set boundaries in my phone notes. Public tasks when possible. No closed doors unless necessary for repairs. Keep it professional. 2 nights a week, max. At 6:15, I texted the number she'd given me. Confirm Tuesday 8:10, send list by 6. Her reply came fast. A scarf emoji. Then, yes? Tuesday afternoon, an email from an address I didn't recognize. Sophie Reed, assistant to Vivian Ashford. Vendor compliance form attached. Please complete and return within 24 hours. Standard stuff. LLC name, insurance limits, emergency contact. I filled it out clean, submitted it back. At 5:42, my phone buzzed with a shared notes app invitation. The list was already there. Tea, peppermint bulk, light bulbs, LED, warm white, 60W equivalent, lamp switch repair, bedroom grocery pickup, list attached. At 7:55, I parked behind the Meridian Tower. The service entrance was propped open with a rubber wedge. Marco was at the desk inside, reading something on his phone. He looked up when I walked in. Logistics night? That's right. He nodded toward the service elevator. 18. The replacement bulbs took 20 minutes. The lamp switch was loose in its housing. Another 20 to tighten and test. We unpacked groceries while tea steeped in ceramic cups, talking about nothing important, music she'd heard on the radio, a book her assistant had recommended. Long way? She asked when the groceries were put away. If you can. We sat at opposite ends of her couch, tea steaming between us, while she sorted through mail and I scrolled emails on my phone. Comfortable quiet. Rain against the windows. Her ring, tapping gently against the ceramic cup every few minutes. At 10:05, we rode the elevator down. It stopped at the 14th floor. Lena stepped in. Petite, dark hair, Pilates toned in expensive athleisure wear. Her eyes flicked to my tool bag, back to my face. New building handyman? She asked. Something like that. Hmm. She smiled, but her eyes stayed curious. Well, welcome to the Meridian. The doors opened at the lobby. I nodded goodbye and headed for my truck. Over the next 2 weeks, Tuesday and Friday became routine. Marco got used to seeing me. Sophie's invoices got approved within 24 hours. The shared notes app grew. Flour and sugar, donate winter coats, seal the draft around the bedroom window. We developed a code. Long way? Meant stay longer. Yes meant pour more tea. No meant pack up the tools and say goodnight. We never touched. Friday of the third week, the hallway was dimmer than usual. As I carried a step stool toward Vivian's door, Lena's door cracked open across the hall. She didn't say anything, just smiled and closed it again. Inside, wind was picking up outside the windows. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in, but the apartment was mostly dark except for the city glow through the floor-to-ceiling windows. We sat on the couch, waiting for the power to come back. In the darkness, her voice got softer, more honest. We lost a baby, she said. 3 years ago, late term. Graham handled it by working more. I handled it by not handling it. She was quiet for a long moment. The house got so quiet after that, like we were both afraid to make any noise that might break something else. I told her about the weight of my mom's medical bills, how I'd wake up at 3 a.m. calculating and recalculating, figuring out which bills I could delay, which clients I couldn't afford to lose, how the truck breaking down could sink everything. I'm afraid I'm going to let her down, I said. You won't. You don't know that. I know you drive around for 12 hours to make sure her prescription gets filled. That's not someone who lets people down. In the darkness, her hand found my forehead. Just a touch, gentle and brief, like checking for fever. Then she pulled back. The power returned with a low hum. The lamps flickered on. We both blinked in the sudden light and stepped apart. The elevator made soft, chiming sounds as we rode down. Then it stopped between 15 and 14 with a small shudder. Well, I said, that's new. Emergency lighting flickered on again. She laughed, really laughed, and I felt something shift between us. Something that had nothing to do with the elevator or the power or the storm outside. You're not claustrophobic, are you? She asked. Only when I'm not getting paid. She laughed again, and the elevator jerked back to life. The doors opened on 14. Lena was standing in the hallway, phone in her hand, like she'd been waiting. Oh, good, you're not stuck, she said. I was about to call the building manager. We said goodnight, and I headed for the lobby. Sunday afternoon, Vivian scheduled a charity pickup in her notes app. Meet her at the side entrance at 2 p.m. It felt different in daylight. We drove the coast road with the windows cracked, salt air mixing with her perfume, stopped at a food truck near the marina, shared fish tacos standing at a picnic table. The wind picked up, and I gave her my jacket without thinking about it. She didn't give it back until we reached the car. Tuesday, she said, sliding the jacket across the back seat as I dropped her at a side entrance to the building. Tuesday came with an email from Sophie, sent at 8:23 p.m. while we were organizing Vivian's donation pile. Please attach current insurance certificate. Vendor compliance form has been updated. Thanks, Sophie. CC, Graham Ashford. Vivian went very still when she saw Graham's name in the email. Use the loading dock tonight, she said quietly. I packed up the tools, took the freight elevator to the parking garage. Marco was waiting by the exit, holding the door. Mr. Hale, he said quietly, loading docks closed for most people. I nodded my thanks and headed for my truck. A camera phone clicked softly somewhere behind me. I glanced back but saw only shadows and concrete pillars. My phone buzzed as I pulled out of the garage. Vivian, cancel Friday, indefinite. I stared at the message until the traffic light changed behind me. I didn't sleep that night. Wednesday morning came gray and cold, and I drove my regular routes like nothing had changed. But I kept catching myself taking the long way past the Meridian Tower around 6 p.m., slowing down just enough to see the 18th floor windows. I never stopped. Thursday, the pharmacy called again. Price increase on your mom's medication. The insurance is covering less. How much less? About 40%. I authorized a partial fill and drove to Jimmy's garage to pick up some overflow work, changed oil, rotated tires, anything that paid cash and kept my hands busy. Friday came and went. The time I usually spent at Vivian's place, I spent parked at the marina instead, watching boats rock in their slips. Safer that way. Saturday and Sunday crawled by. I helped Jimmy with a transmission job for half rate just to have somewhere to be. Monday, I caught myself drafting texts I never sent. Everything okay? Delete. Thanks for the work. Hope you're well. Delete. Did I do something wrong? Delete. Tuesday night, what should have been our regular session, I ended up in my truck outside a 24-hour diner, eating pie and trying not to think about peppermint tea. When I got back to my apartment, I opened the glove box to grab my registration for an insurance update. That's when I saw it. A cashmere scarf, soft gray, folded neat and small. It smelled like jasmine and rain. Wrapped around a piece of paper, handwritten in careful script. The long way is walking. I sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes, scarf in my hands, trying to figure out when she could have left it there. Then I remembered Sunday at the marina. When I'd given her my jacket, she must have tucked it in while I was paying for the tacos. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling when my phone showed 2:06 a.m. Through my window, I could see the Meridian Tower in the distance. As I watched, a small light blinked twice near the base of the building, the porch light by the main entrance. Two blinks, then steady. I got dressed and drove over. The building looked different at 2 a.m. Quieter, more shadows. I parked across the street and sat on a public bench under a streetlight. At 2:12, the lobby door opened. Vivian stepped outside alone, wearing jeans and a coat I'd never seen before. She walked to the far end of the bench and sat down, leaving one seat between us. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi." We sat in silence for a minute, breath fogging in the cold air. The city was hushed, just distant traffic and the hum of streetlights. "Lena took a photo," she said finally. "Last Tuesday, through the window, your jacket draped over my chair." I figured something like that. Graham's been attentive lately. Sophie's watching my calendar closer. The assistant CC'd him on your vendor email. I nodded. "So, we're done. We're changing the rules." She turned to look at me. "No more home visits. No more evenings. Daylight only. Public places. Invoices for consulting work only." That going to be enough? For them to back off? It has to be. She pulled her coat tighter. "Walking will be the long way now." We sat quiet for another few minutes. Then she stood up. "I should go back." I walked her to the lobby doors, stopping 3 steps short while she used her keycard. Thursday morning, she said without turning around. Marina Loop, 10 a.m. At 8:30 Thursday morning, I texted, Thermos tea? Marina Loop? Her reply, yes. I met her at the marina parking lot with peppermint tea in a metal thermos. We walked the loop once in comfortable quiet, passing the thermos back and forth without letting our hands touch. How's your mom? She asked. Managing. New medications helping, just costs more. I'm glad it's helping. We talked about books. She recommended something about architectural history. I suggested a mystery series my mom liked. Normal conversation, but underneath it, the careful space we kept between us felt charged. At the halfway point, she pulled out her phone. Sophie sent me vendor rates for outdoor consulting, landscape design, maintenance planning, $40 an hour. That's generous. It's market rate, for the kind of expertise you actually have. By the time we completed the loop, we'd planned cover for future meetings, hardware store consultations, garden center visits for her charity's spring fundraiser, all legitimate, all public, all logged properly through Sophie. Saturday morning, she said as we reached our cars, farmer's market, 2 loops only. I tucked the thermos under my arm. I'll bring receipts for the tea. She almost smiled. Professional expense. Friday, I picked up an overtime job that covered my mom's full prescription plus a little extra. Small victory, but it felt good to pay the pharmacy in full. Saturday morning at the farmer's market, we walked among the stalls like any other consulting arrangement. She bought lemons and bread while I took photos of different booth setups for her charity event planning. Halfway through our second loop, an older woman in a tailored coat approached. Vivian, how lovely to see you here. Vivian's posture shifted, became more formal. Margaret, good morning. And who's this? This is Mark Hale. He's consulting on our spring fundraiser setup. Margaret Holbrook from the Arts Board. I shook Margaret's hand, fell easily into contractor mode. We're looking at traffic flow patterns, vendor spacing, making sure the layout works for both accessibility and revenue. Margaret nodded approvingly. How thorough. Well, I'll let you get back to your work. After she left, we kept walking but stayed further apart. Professional distance. At the end of the second loop, we sat at a public bench. Vivian tapped her ring lightly against the thermos before standing up. A small ritual, like a goodbye kiss we couldn't have. Sunday, I drove to see my mom. She looked better, more energy from the new medication. We sat in her kitchen while she made lunch and she asked about work. You seem lighter lately, she said. Less worried. Things are more stable. Good. You work too hard, Mark. You should make time for other things too. Monday morning, I ran into Marco outside the building. He was getting coffee from a cart, saw me walking past. Mr. Hale? Marco, how are you? He looked around, then stepped closer. That loading dock night, couple weeks ago. Yeah? Building manager asked about it. Routine security review. He sipped his coffee. I told him it was scheduled maintenance consultation. My logs show nothing unusual. I appreciate that. Mornings are safer, he said quietly. Fewer people paying attention. Easier to keep things. He searched for the word. Professional. I texted Vivian that afternoon. No more docs. Marina Wednesday? Her reply? A road emoji with 2 parallel lines. Wednesday morning, 7:30 a.m. Marina Loop, thermos tea, book recommendations. A jogger passed us twice. Just another routine morning for everyone involved. I finished the mystery you suggested, she said. The detective reminded me of you. Pays attention to details other people miss. Did he solve it? Eventually, but he had to be patient. We completed 2 loops and parted at the crosswalk, standing with a careful, visible gap between us as the light changed. Over the next 10 days, we kept 3 more morning loops, each one logged through Sophie as fundraiser planning consultation, each one ending at the same crosswalk, the same careful distance maintained. Then, Graham's schedule shifted, and Vivian had to cancel our Friday meeting last minute. I spent the afternoon changing oil with Jimmy instead of circling her block, paid down another chunk of my mom's medical debt, emailed Vivian a legitimate question about window caulking types to keep our paper trail clean. That night at 9:58, my phone buzzed. A photo of the gray scarf folded on a chair, captioned, "Still yours if you need it." I replied immediately, "Walking, 8 a.m., bench by the blue skiff." One checkmark appeared, then nothing else. Friday night became Saturday morning. I got to the marina at 7:45, sat on the bench by the blue skiff with the thermos steaming beside me. At exactly 8 Rao, she appeared on the path. "Good morning," she said, sitting down with space between us. "Morning." I poured tea into 2 thermos cups. She tapped her ring once against the metal, soft and deliberate. We walked 2 loops, talking about ordinary things. Her charity's book drive was going well. My mom's physical therapy was helping her mobility. The way morning light caught in the boat rigging was prettier than either of us expected. No touching, no promises, no dramatic declarations, just 2 people walking carefully parallel paths, close enough to share conversation but far enough apart to stay safe. At the crosswalk where we always parted, we stood waiting for the light to change. A couple with a dog passed behind us, a jogger stretched at the corner. Normal morning life happening around us. The walk signal started flashing. "Some roads are straight lines," I said quietly. "Some are switchbacks. And some are just 2 people walking beside each other, careful not to brush hands." She looked at me for a moment, ring tapping once more against her thermos cup. "Same time next week?" she asked. "If you want the long way?" "I always want the long way." The light changed. We stepped forward into the crosswalk together, separately, but together. 2 parallel lines moving in the same direction, maintaining the space between us that kept us both safe and kept us both coming back. Behind us, the marina settled into another ordinary morning. Ahead of us, the city woke up to another day of careful choices and small rebellions. Some doors slammed shut, others stay cracked just enough to let the light in. We walked forward, separately, together, into whatever came next.